Let's give a large round of applause here for all the documentaries. And again, right, if you're interested in more of those, there's a semester-long project. They're all on YouTube, hopefully public with optimization, so you can find them if you're interested in watching them more. Let's move on into our first category here, the creative category. So this was kind of that category that allowed you to do whatever you desired here, so it was pretty wide open, very few restrictions here, so we'll watch the top 2 pieces in the creative category in no particular order, and then we'll announce the first and second prize winner here once we watch them both. So our first one in the creative category to watch is You Would Be My 7 Minutes by Makayla.
Let's drive for no reason. Let's see with these wheels. Then let's grind down the curve of this earth. You look fine in the evening, honey, it's starting to storm. When we kissed in the car, in the school parking lot, where I'd go with my friends to get drunk. Used to wish I meant anything to anywhere, to anyone. When forever was a sentence, sentenced to death. Or when you were a running tear, I was a drop of sweat. And the edges of your soul I haven't seen yet. Now I'm glad I get forever to see where you went. I won't be alone for the rest of my life. I'll build a boat for when the river gets high, and I'll meet a girl in the heat of July, and I'll tell her so she knows. And I'm broke, but I'm real rich in my head, that I broke a bone that never healed in my hands. When I hold her close, I might loosen my grip, but I won't ever let her go. I won't ever let her go. Remember when we called the cops 'cause it got too high and you got scared? Can't make bread, so we window shop in the Upper West Side. Oh my God, could you imagine that? I won't be alone for the rest of my life. I'll build a boat for when the river gets high. Light, I'll tell her so she knows. And I'm broke, but I'm real rich in my head, that I broke a bone that never healed in my hands. When I hold her close, I might loosen my grip, but I won't ever let her go. I won't ever let her go. You were a running tear, I was a drop of sweat. And the edges of your soul to see where you went.
Let's give a large round of applause to Makayla here. That was great. All right, moving on to our second one in the creative category. Again, in no particular order. Uh-oh. There we go. Nice, let's give a round of applause to George, Kaden, and Jacob here. I played some golf today and my swing looked nothing like that, so I'm very upset. So, let's announce our prizes here. Our second place winner is You Would Be My 7 Minutes, produced by Makayla Moxey. Let's give Makayla a round of applause here. And that means our creative top prize is Longwood Men's Golf 2023 Hype Video, produced by George Gaston, Kaden Flessner, and Jacob Halloway here. Congratulations, gentlemen. Who wants to come talk about this thing? Kaden, it looks like it's you. Woo, Kaden. So, Kaden, you have to tell us what it was like to produce this video and what went into it. Into the mic nice and loud.
It was good because golf didn't have any of the videos for it, so I wanted to do something with it. So Jacob and George did very good with it, so it just helped. So I just don't know what to say for it.
Nice. What was your inspiration?
Because I play sports. I used to play sports, so it helps, and I know exactly some of it and what to do.
Excellent. Well, good work. Excellent, guys. All right, one more final round of applause for all the entrants in the creative category here. Again, check your emails tomorrow morning. We're going to move on to the news category. Why don't you There we go, the news category. So again, in no particular order, we will screen the top two prizes in the news category. The first one we're going to screen is Opening Weekend, produced by Claudia Wellman.
The new Joan Perry Brock Center held its home this past weekend, Saturday, November 11th, for the men's basketball team. The new Joan Perry Brock Center held its home opener this past weekend on Saturday, November 11th for the Longwood men's basketball team. Members of the community and alumni sold out the new 3,000-seat arena for the first home game of the season. For fans not able to attend the game in person, all games are broadcasted through ESPN+. With the new stadium is new equipment and environment for the production assistants. Students have the opportunity through ESPN+ to gain field training and production experience. Jacob Halloway, a communication studies major and coordinator of broadcast operations at the Longwood University Athletic Department, helped broadcast the opening game in JPB this past weekend. Jacob discusses his experience.
Opening weekend was very interesting. Brandon was not there either day. We had our old director, Ian Jett, come in direct Saturday, and that went pretty smoothly. It was a little weird since that was most of our first time meeting him, brand new equipment, first day. It was very weird vibes, but it all went smoothly. We had a pretty successful broadcast, and then the next day I directed, and It was a lot to go on. Didn't have everything that I needed prepared, but we made it happen and made it work. The complications were building up over the week. Me and a couple other members of the crew would go in all last week and kind of troubleshoot the graphics. We had some stuff wrong as far as our director board and that settings, where we had to just adjust like our game clock. We didn't have our stats connected to our computer, our graphics computer, which made it a little more difficult. A couple of our breaks wouldn't automatically go into program when we queued them, and then some of our commentator stuff was a little messed up. So there was a lot of moving parts going in, but we got it all pretty much figured out Friday, and then Ian helped solidify it when he came in on Saturday.
For more information about ESPN Broadcasting, contact Brandon Fenters, the Director of Operations at Longwood University. For more information regarding future games in JPB, follow along on Longwood Lancers website.
Excellent. Let's give Claudia a round of applause here. Opening weekend JPB. We're going to watch the beginning again. Oh, I lied. We're not. So the next one we're going to watch is Real Christmas Trees feature story produced by George Gaston.
In the spirit of the season, many are faced with a choice, a real Christmas tree or an artificial one. Today, we explore the importance of choosing a real tree at Mill Farm in Williamsburg, Virginia, where the magic of Christmas comes to life. I talked with Will Apperson, a third-generation operator of Mill Farm, to get his thoughts on the topic.
You know, you can get a real tree. I don't have a problem with people with fake trees, but real trees are fine. They promote family. I like to see families coming out and getting the trees. They're sustainable for growth. They're good for the environment. They produce oxygen, and they help the farm succeed for another year. The farm is about 130 acres total. What we have about 35 acres in production. We grow strawberries, blueberries, blackberries, peaches, and also grow Christmas trees. I would recommend, if you can find one, it would be the Leland cypress, an arborvitae, or a Mary cypress. They're a type of cypress. They don't leave any needles. They're very hypoallergenic. They do not droop. They hold ornaments well. And the main thing I like about them is that they don't dry out as fast, and you don't have any problem making it till Christmas.
Behind the scenes, a dedicated team works to ensure that Mill Farm maintains its commitment to sustainability. Dennis Gaston shared his take on the choice that makes the most sense.
For a real Christmas tree, the cliche answer is that real trees make sense. Sense in terms of aroma. They smell good. They put the holiday aroma into the house when you put them in there. Sense in terms of dollars and cents, in that the farmer gets to make a little bit of money and keep the land in agricultural production, which that makes for a good landscape value in the county here. So the trees are not good just for one day on Christmas Day. They're good for scenic beauty the other 364 days. And sense in that it makes sense because they're real trees. We don't use the term artificial, we use the term fake. Fake trees are fake trees. And real trees make sense in that it gives the spirit of Christmas, puts the spirit into the house. 85% of the fake Christmas trees are made in China, first of all, and they're made of metal and plastic, and the PVC type of plastic. So they're simply not recyclable. You'd have to take every needle off of a artificial or a fake tree and recycle that individually. So it's just not a recyclable product. Whereas real trees are certainly recyclable. They compost nicely. They return to the soil, and so it's the perfect environmental choice.
Standing amidst the greenery here at Mill Farm, the importance of choosing a real Christmas tree immediately becomes clear. These trees not only fill our homes with holiday cheer, but also contribute to a greener, more sustainable future. I also talked with the Runtfer family, who are lifelong buyers of real Christmas trees.
So this is actually our first time coming to the farm. We had friends that had been coming here for years and told us about the place. And we wanted to come down and experience getting our own tree and chopping it down. We've always gotten a real tree, I think, for as long as we've been married. So it's always been our tradition to get a real tree.
My favorite part is it's good for the environment, and it's makes the house smell good. The fake trees aren't as pretty.
That's true.
And they're really expensive.
That's true. What do you think, Dad?
I agree.
You agree? I would say a real tree, I think it's far more nostalgic. It definitely makes the house more Christmassier because of the smell, right?
As all these families around me take home their real Christmas trees, they not only bring warmth and tradition into their homes, but also make a positive impact on the planet. From Mill Farm here in Williamsburg, I'm George, encouraging you to choose a real Christmas tree this year for a greener and more joyful holiday season. Back to you guys in the studio. Choose a real Christmas tree this year for a greener and more joyful holiday season. Back to you guys in the studio.
Excellent. Let's give it up for George there. And the dad. Come on, have an opinion, Dad. All right, so our second place winner in the news category is Opening Weekend, produced by Claudia Wellman. And that means our first place winner in the news category is Real Christmas Tree feature story produced by George Gaston. George, come on up here and tell us a little bit about it. And of course, the question is, real or fake tree?
Hi. Speaking of dads, that was my dad in the green, so thanks to him for the great quotes. I grew up working at that farm, so that place is very near and dear to my heart. The owner is a good family friend of mine, so the whole piece was very personal to me, but both for the farm itself and also for just the point I was making there. So thank you.
Thanks, George. Excellent. So, moving along. We're on to the promotional category, promoting an individual or organization here. We will watch the top 3 in the promotional category again in, in no particular order. The first one we're going to watch is YMCA commercial produced by Christian Benniefield, Bailey Deaver, and Alexandra Huerta.
At the Southside Virginia Family YMCA, we believe in the power of community for a place where every person can thrive in their body, mind, and spirit. There are activities for all ages. For kids, they can play, learn, and make great friends. You can ensure that our child care teams are keeping your children safe at all times and ensuring the fun. For the adults, you can excel, get fit, and achieve your goals in the weight room, a variety of classes, and the swimming pool. It's where families spend quality time and make memories that last a lifetime. Our dedicated team cares about your goals and is here to support you every step of the way. There's no limits to what you as a member can do. The YMCA is not just a gym, it's community.
For better us!
Let's give the YMCA a round of applause. Excellent. Moving along. We will look at first-generation college students at Longwood University, produced by George and Jordan.
My name's Kaden Thomas.
I'm Yasmin Adam.
My name's Cameron Lowry.
My name is Joseph Jackson. Being a first-gen student in college is basically coming from a family where neither of your parents have completed more than an associate's degree.
It makes me feel proud because I get to change my family's future. Like, it's different for me.
There were a lot of social events, and there were also a lot of staff that were also first-gen students, and now they're working here, so it was just kind of nice to see all that representation.
The first-gen students I've met have been really nice. You come here and you think that everybody has all this experience from their parents and their grandparents and stuff, and when you meet somebody who has no experience like you, it's like connection.
My advice for a Longwood first-gen student is to not be afraid to try new things and go outside of your comfort zone to meet new people, and it's really scary, but you just gotta trust the process.
I'm a first-gen student.
I am a first-gen student.
I am a first-gen student.
I am a first-gen student.
Let's give it up for them. First gen students produced by George and Jordan. I'm also a first gen student. All right, moving on to our third in the promotional category is extra suspense.
It's Cadence Thomas. My name's Cadence Thomas.
I'm Yasmin.
Longwood Ambassadors produced by Jacob Halloway.
Longwood Ambassadors is a volunteer student organization that works with the Office of Admissions to conduct campus tours. We are a diverse group of people from majors across the university and work hard to promote the university and its resources.
Ambassadors are goal-driven citizen leaders who strive to make a great change in the lives of everyone around them. We show this by giving amazing tours that are truly tailored to the families that we meet, and by showing them what we see in the amazing blue and white spirit here at Longwood University.
Kind of found a new sense of community within Longwood. I've made a lot of new connections and I've learned a lot more about Longwood, like the nitty-gritty fun fact stuff. We also put on special events like Ooze Ball during spring weekend. We dig out the sand volleyball pit on Stubbs Lawn and fill it with water to have a big game of mud volleyball in a bracket style. It's a big Longwood tradition all students appreciate. We also put on ghost tours in the fall around Halloween time. We participate in all of Longwood traditions as well as other events put on by the campus.
Of course, Longwood Ambassadors gives tours on campus, but we also hold bonding events for us as current members here, but then other events on campus for students to meet us and then maybe think about joining us so we can add to our bit of diversity here to share our true experience here at Longwood and show the blue and white spirit that we have here.
My favorite part of Ambassadors is the people. Some of my closest friends here at Longwood I met through Ambassadors. I've also met some amazing faculty and staff that are an awesome support system for me here. My absolute favorite part of Ambassadors is when students I gave a tour to decide to come to Longwood. It's so special knowing that I played a role in their decision. First connections that I made while being an ambassador was with my mentor, Quinn Kehoe. A mentor is like a role model that can answer any of your questions when you're an ambassador, and they're just kind of like your guiding hand throughout your entire time as an ambassador.
Ambassadors has taught me a lot about managing my time well and developing as a person, but also to be more inclusive of others. It has definitely made me reach out more with my efforts in DEIA and providing families who don't speak English and would like a Spanish tour to be included and feel like they are part of the community here, because they very much are.
Ambassadors offer lots of leadership experience within the organization and around campus as a whole. Ambassadors opens doors to lots of other opportunities through connections in the organization. I would have never thought that I would be organizing an event as big as Ooze Ball before I joined Ambassadors.
Ambassadors is the Longwood spirit.
Leadership.
Family.
Ambassadors is my home away from home.
Community.
Love. Friendship.
Tours.
Ambassadors is blue and khaki.
Silly gooses.
My guide. My roommate for life.
Ambassadors is fun.
A blessing.
Ambassadors is at Longwood.
Apply to Ambassadors today!
Let's give it up for Jacob here at Longwood Ambassadors. So, our third place winner in the promotional category is YMCA commercial produced by Bailey Deaver, Alexandra Huerta, and Christian Benniefield. Our second place winner in the category is first generation college students produced at Longwood University, produced by George Gaston and Jordan Ellerson. And that means our winner in the promotional category is Longwood Ambassadors Promo, Jacob Halloway, and that is a back-to-back win for Jacob. He also won this category last year with his partner Nicole here. So Jacob, come on up and talk about the production of this video.
Yeah, so this video was made in Comm Lab, I guess, last fall. Quinn was in my class and kind of approached me and was like, hey, would you like to do a video for Ambassadors? And I was like, yeah, why not? So I worked with Lydia Story pretty closely and went to a couple different shoots, and it was quite a process for a promotional video, but it was a lot of fun to highlight the work that Ambassadors do and the spirit that they bring here. So, yeah, that work was well done.
Congratulations, Jacob. Back-to-back winner in the category. So, moving on to our showcase category of the evening, and that is the documentaries here, right? We're, of course, here to celebrate all student media, but we particularly do want to celebrate the documentaries. For time's sakes here, I wish we would watch them all, but unless you guys want to stay here till 10 p.m. tonight, we cannot. And so for time's sakes here, we're only going to watch the top 3. But before we get to the top 3, there are a few honorable mention documentaries we want to give a special shout out to. We had an insanely close competition. At the end, I was literally looking at tenths of a point to separate 2nd, 3rd, 4th, and 5th place here. So a couple of those honorable mentions we want to give out to in no particular order here are, eventually, The Magic of Witchcraft, Call Me a Witch, Call Me a Bitch, produced by Quinn Urban here. Let's give Quinn a round of applause for a nice honorable mention. The amazing graphics, you can of course find this on YouTube here and watch the entire thing. I strongly encourage you to do. The next honorable mention we want to give a shout out to is Answering the Call, the story of Griff Aldridge, produced by Bailey Deaver and Justin Ramsataya. We want to give an honorable mention here. You can also check this on YouTube. It's a great piece here. And the final honorable mention we want to give a shout out to is your not so favorite musician, the Sam Harrison story here, produced by Kate Frey and Annabelle Jennings here. Of course, available on YouTube as well as Sam's music is also available on all the platforms, I hear, all the platforms, so do check that out. So again, shout out to those honorable mentions, shout out to all the other ones too we don't get the chance to watch tonight, but moving on to our top 3 in no particular order, we will watch. First one is The Man of Many Names, produced by Ryan Forrest. Oh no, it's in the middle.
On the first part of the journey, I was looking at all the life. There were plants and birds and rocks and things. There was sand and hills and rain. All right, let's go. The first thing I met was a fly with a buzz and the sky.
His enthusiasm is pretty infectious.
He doesn't take himself too seriously.
He truthfully brightens my day when I see him.
Absolutely passionate about students, about teaching.
I would say Dr. Milne is super enthusiastic about Longwood.
He is an authentic human being, he's authentic to himself. Jake's one of my favorite people. Jake.
Dr. Milne.
Jake.
My dad.
Dr. Milne, Jake.
Dr. Milne, Dr. Milne.
Mr. Longwood.
Dr. Milne.
Mr. Longwood, Jake Milne.
You know, I know it may be really hard for a lot of folks to know this, but one, I'm extremely shy. I am very shy. When I was growing up, through much of my, adolescent years, I really struggled with being outgoing. Didn't have a lot of really close friends. My friends were through soccer and they were through scouts. Longwood, both as a student, now as a faculty member, has really allowed me to blossom and burgeon into someone who is approachable, who's outgoing, who is there for students. I credit Longwood for that.
I know Dr. Milne through not only being an ambassador, which he's an advisor for, but he is my sociology professor. I just met him this semester, but throughout that semester I've grown kind of, in my opinion, kind of close to him. I think he's a great professor, and he's given me a lot of guidance, and he truthfully brightens my day when I see him. I think he definitely does talk a lot about his wife, and I think it's very cute. And I like seeing them on campus together. They're the only couple. They're the only couple at Longwood that both graduated from Longwood and both work at Longwood.
So I met my wife, Heather Milne. Her maiden name is Heather Whitaker. We met on August 18th, 1995. And we met in Curry Hall, what you all call Moss Hall. We both moved into 9th floor Curry. I helped her move in a little bit of stuff, but the first time I remembered her was we were sitting in the hallway. We were getting ready to do the RA meeting that you always do at the very beginning of the year. And sitting there, and she walks out of the room, and she's wearing this beautiful blue dress, white blouse, had her long red hair down the back, was wearing her glasses. So yeah, that was the first time I met her, and you know, she and I have had a wonderful relationship. College was a lot of fun for both of us. You know, we dated a little bit on and off in college, but we finally got together right after college when I went off to South Carolina to get my master's degree. So.
My first impressions of Jake when I first met him, or Dr. Milne, sorry. I wasn't too sure about him when I first met him, but over the years we had a friendship before we had a relationship, so that has grown and changed over the years. But as I got to know him better, I thought he was an interesting kid at the time, and still is a big kid, but yeah.
I do think it is really cool that my parents met on campus, that they went to school here, they work here, and we live pretty close here. I think that's pretty cool and interesting.
So when I first met Dr. Milne, I was coming in with a lot of notions that he was a lot of energy, a very fun guy. So when I first got into his class and I saw him there and he just was super happy to see everyone that walked in the room, I knew that I chose the right professor to kind of guide me through one of my last years at Longwood. And it all came true. You know, first impressions of Milne was that, you know, he's a very fun guy, very positive, and he really shows straight off the bat he cares a lot about his students, and he cares a lot about how they're doing, what they're doing, and anything that they're involved in.
My relationship to Jake Milne is a really good friend. He's a colleague over in sociology. He's great. He gave me my tour when I first started here back in 2014. But he's also my golfing buddy, and we've been out of the links many a time.
The first time I met Dr. Jake Milne was during my orientation when I came to Longwood. It was 10 years ago. This is my 10th year here at Longwood. And, you know, it's like 3 days of orientation and a lot of meetings and sitting in HR and boring. And at the end of one day, let's say day 2 in the middle, we had a tour. And listed was this tour guide. They're like, oh, we went to Longwood as an undergrad and he'll take you around on a tour. And so, you know, he comes and meets us at Rotunda or something like that. And this guy who, you know, he had a Longwood hat on. I mean, you could really, like, right, Mr. Longwood, he probably had a Longwood shirt on. He was repping the brand really, really well. And I just remember his energy and his enthusiasm for this place. I mean, obviously, if you know Jake, you know he brings it. And so just even to 10 random faculty, like 10 years ago, he's walking us up and down, talking about the old student center and Brock Commons and all this. And you can clearly tell it's not an act, right? And that's one of the things I appreciate about Jake is he is an authentic human being. He's authentic to himself. And so when he has enthusiasm and has passion for something, he's not faking it. You know he is, that's who he is, and that's how he feels about something.
I'm pretty sure I met Jake in 2008, 2009. It was, if I remember, and I hope I get it right, after a New Lancer Days speech. So he had talked earlier in the day, and he was hanging out in the back of Jarman Auditorium, if I remember everything right. And I gave like the closing speech. And I mean, I was a complete idiot, right? It was meant to be fun, but I tried to hype him up and run around, and I cussed. Probably shouldn't have done that. And then afterwards, like he was hanging out, and a mutual friend introduced us, and it was one of those things where we started talking to each other. And I joke that it was straight out of the movie Step Brothers, where they just instantly recognize that they're best friends.
I met him as a faculty member, but also as part of the Farmville community because of that aspect. So I think, yes, my first impressions of Dr. Milne, that he was a very warm and kind individual. You know, someone that you could, you know, be friends with, you could look to as a mentor.
So my first impression of Jake was that he's just a really energetic guy. He's enthusiastic about life, and his enthusiasm is pretty infectious. Even going back to his earliest memories when he was a student here, that's one of the things that really captured me about Jake.
Jake's hearing loss and the reality of living in that world is something that I think he necessarily, but also chooses to wear on his sleeve. He'll talk about it with anyone, right? It's not a hidden secret. I know he shared a lot of his frustrations with me over the years. He jokes about it, right? Is depreciating and self-effacing in that way. But I know it remains a struggle for him. I know it's difficult as he deals with Cole's own hearing loss. I think that's probably a pretty difficult part of his journey. What I appreciate about Jake is that he's authentically who he is. And he's not going to perform for you in this space. And he can joke about his hearing, but he has worked really diligently over the course of his life to make it a positive part of who he is as a person and as a leader. And I think it's really inspiring. I think he's taught me a lot. He's taught me a lot about how to approach conversations with people, how to be respectful, how to not to make assumptions. And I think it's something that's more of a burden than he lets on. But it's given him so much in the way that he's learned about other people, and the fact that he can be as positive, he can be as loving as he is while dealing with this every second of every day. I think that's pretty damn awesome.
It can be hard to have both of us with hearing loss because, especially me, on the weekend I tend not to wear my hearing aids because I don't really need to go anywhere. And sometimes just not hear something. And this is very common. Sometimes I usually hear the things that my parents don't want me to hear, and then I don't hear the things when they're calling me. And sometimes I think they are calling me when they actually aren't.
Is the communication the same, or is there a difference?
There's a bit of a difference. Really, a lot of the problem with me is that I talk really fast. So sometimes we can't pick up on what I'm saying. And for me, it's usually distance or noise based. So sometimes I just can't hear my people talking to me.
There are difficulties with communication with him because of the hearing loss. He sometimes has a hard time hearing me because he says my voice is really higher pitched for him. So I've had to learn over the years to adjust my voice so that he can hear me. I think Jake has been able to overcome his hearing loss by having a positive attitude about it, and his family worked hard with him as a youngster to make it normal for him. And I think having that positive attitude about the hearing loss helps him have a positive attitude.
I have not been in an experience with him where people have treated him differently. I think part of that is that they just didn't even know that he had any hearing loss. I've never been in a situation where people have treated him differently because of his hearing loss.
It's something that he has naturally dealt with his entire life. So he has not only adapted, but he has shown others that you are able to take your gifts and show how you can work with them and help others and become part of a larger community altogether. In my mind, at first you're like, he's got a hearing loss, but then you realize it's part of who he is.
So Dr. Milne makes it a point in his very first class to kind of tell you that, he has a hearing condition and he can't hear as well. But from hearing that and seeing how he interacted in his classrooms, it was never a forefront kind of topic in my mind every time I saw him, because he's able to kind of incorporate, students, around that kind of condition. He really, goes about his hearing loss in a way that, it doesn't make it a forefront of how he teaches. He's able to adapt, his movement around the classroom and how he talks to students around his hearing loss.
So I love being involved on campus. It is the highlight of my career, is doing service to this university. So I've been involved in several organizations. I'm currently involved and work as the faculty advisor for 4 organizations, and that would be the Longwood Ambassadors, the ones who give tours on campus. I work with the Big Event crew, which is the group that does the one-day community service project that we do every spring. I work with Steps LU, which is the group that raises the puppy dogs on campus to be service dogs. And then I work with SEAL, which is the Student Educators for Active Leadership. So they are an educational organization that helps students with leadership, helps students learn how to become better leaders on campus. So there are actually two events that I have to mention that are absolutely my favorite on this campus. One, and the one that's by far away my favorite, is Ooze Ball. I love Ooze Ball. So I've been working with Ooze Ball when I worked with them as a student. I helped to plan and organize it as a student. So much so that the organization nicknamed me Captain Ooze Ball. And then when I started working with the ambassadors again, and even before that, I had offered to referee the Ooze Ball matches. And so I've been refereeing the Ooze Ball matches on and off since about 2008. I missed a couple of years here and there, but for the most part, I love Ooze Ball. It's so much fun. I've often said I am happiest when students are at play, when students are enjoying themselves, and I can see that enjoyment. I love doing that, and Ooze Ball is a great way of doing that. So that was by far my favorite event. I guess second, maybe even 1B, would be the Big Event. I do love working with those students, helping them see that relationship of how much they are valued by our town. You know, that's really what the Big Event is about. It's about a way for the students to get out to the community to say thank you to the community for hosting them throughout the years. And so this is a great way of seeing that relationship, what we call town and gown, seeing how that relationship can be developed through the use of this project. So I really like that part. So those are by far my two favorite events.
You know, Jake is called Mr. Longwood for a reason, and it is his involvement in student life. And I think that when someone of Jake's personal character and caliber gets involved in student life, that can only be a good thing. I feel like his role in student life is really just a great value add that he brings to the table as a faculty member here.
If there was a word that was higher than passionate, I think that would be what you would apply, because Longwood is definitely key and central to Dr. Milne's identity, and he absolutely loves this place for so many different reasons and gives of his time for late night breakfast and for Ooze Ball and for study pause and pretty much anything that can benefit both the university and the students as well. You can usually find his name involved in it.
I think if you're going to be involved on campus in general, you realize really quickly that it's people like Jake that make the university what it is, and they make it run, and they make students care about how that operates and care about giving back. And so our paths have crossed a number of ways, and so I like to think it was a matter of time before we became as close friends as we are, based on the fact that that's what a lot of my students do. It's something I care about, and he is fully embedded in the mission of the institution in a way that I don't think people could fully appreciate. And what's best about it is that he keeps doing it anyway. That's not important to him. I am motivated by him on a daily basis. I think it's a really difficult thing to each day walk into your office setting or a classroom for us as teachers and bring the energy that he does. He loves what he does, and he loves people. And I'm better as a teacher for having been around his energy. I've never been in his classroom. I don't have to be in his classroom. I know what he's like. I know the way that people speak about him. I know the passion he brings with it. I look up to him. I'm inspired by him every day. We message each other pretty consistently, encouraging each other. He's that kind of a person. So yeah, he's made me a better teacher. He's made me a better colleague. And he is extremely professional but caring about students. And I remember some of the early talks we had, that was really kind of embedded in me after that. Like that's what I aspire to be. I think the vast majority of us are only ever trying to do our best Jake Milne impression, if I'm being honest.
Does she walk? Does she talk? Does she come complete? My homeroom angel always pulled me from my seat. She was pure like snowflakes, no one could ever stain. The memory of my angel could never cause pain. Years go by, I'm looking through a girly magazine, and there's my homeroom angel on the pages in between. My blood runs cold, my memory has just been sold. My angel is the centerfold. Angel is the centerfold. My blood runs cold. My memory has just been sold. Angel is the centerfold. Slipped me notes under the desk while I was thinking about her dress. I was shy, turned away before she caught my eye. I was shaking in my shoes whenever she flashed those baby blues. Something had a hold on me when Angel passed close by. Those soft, fuzzy sweaters, too magical to touch. To see her in that negligee is really just too much. My blood runs cold, and my memory has just been sold. My angel is the centerfold. Angel is the centerfold. My blood runs cold, my memory has just been sold. Oh yeah, angel is the centerfold. It's okay, I understand. This ain't no never, never land. I hope that when this issue's gone, I'll see you when your clothes are on. Take your car, yes we will. We'll take your car and drive it. Take it to a motel room and take them all private. A party has just been ripped. The pages from my mind are stripped. Oh no, I can't deny it. Oh yeah, I guess I gotta buy it. My blood runs cold. My memory has just been sold. My angel is the centerfold. Angel is the centerfold. My blood runs cold. My memory has just been sold. My angel is the centerfold.
Let's give it up for Ryan Forrest here, the man of many names. And of course, I think if you see Dr. Milne shortly, you have to tell him you were held hostage and forced to watch him dance for 2 minutes, right? So keep that in mind. All right, moving on to the next one. Again, in no particular order, we are going to watch. Oh, in a second. We're going to watch Home, the story of Todd Dyer, produced by Claudia Wellman.
Longwood University.
Longwood University to me is home.
Farmville, the area, like Farm Vegas, this is the place to be.
When I think of my memories throughout all of my life, even just the the soft sweatshirts that you wear as pajamas around the house. It was always Longwood.
My favorite sport early on was probably football, and then it became basketball. And going into, I don't know, middle school years, like basketball is probably my favorite sport. And then everybody else kept growing, and I stopped growing. So I'm short, for my size or age or whatever you want to call it. But so in terms of a fit physically, it just seemed like soccer would be a good fit. So started playing club soccer, which is when you start to get serious about it, probably in 10th grade, which would be considered late now. Like my kids started playing when they were 10 years old on club teams. I didn't start doing that until I was 15. It just happened that we moved every 3 years or so. So I felt like growing up, I'd make really good friends, and then we'd move. And then I'd make really good friends again, and then we'd move. And I was always disappointed to, leave friends that I had made, especially when I got into like that middle school age. You get a little bit tighter, maybe a little bit more emotional. But I think it prepared me for, kind of made me who I am in terms of, I feel like now and with recruiting, you have to connect with people, coaching, you have to connect with people. And I just feel like the way we grew up, I was always, I don't want to say forced, but put in a situation where I had to kind of adapt and reconnect with a new group of people. Looking back on it, I think it served me well as far as, being pretty adaptable and able to connect and build relationships with people. So my wife and I dated in high school at Osborne Park in Manassas. She was recruited here for basketball, also played softball here. Just out of high school, I knew I wanted to go to college wherever she went. So I followed her here, and that's how I got here. She gets all the credit for that. I connected with the soccer coach before I even got here, and then in that spring semester, immediately started practicing with the team and did well enough that it looked like it was something we were going to consider that next fall. So fall of '89 was my first official season, but I had kind of worked my way into the program that spring before that.
I would say Coach Dyer is probably one was a great athlete. He could play any sport and excel, whether it's ping pong, bowling, obviously soccer, basketball. He was good at many sports.
I've actually been here my whole life. So when Dad started the program in 1993, I was just a baby. I was born that year. And so I've been in Farmville ever since. Obviously grew up with my dad being the women's soccer coach and men's soccer coach for a while. Growing up, I was always near soccer. So when I got to be at the age when I could play soccer, I wanted to be with my dad, and he loved soccer. And so I was like, all right, I'll play soccer. So me and Devin grew up playing soccer, and I think especially for me, that was kind of what me and my dad's bond was. He was always very motivating. I always wanted to play really hard and well because he was my dad. And I think there was benefits to that and maybe some cons to it as well. But so just growing up around it, kind of being in awe, kind of watching him in action in that way. It's rare that I feel like children get to see their parents doing the thing that they do for work. Especially if you think about, you don't take your kids to a corporate job often. And you typically, even with my mom being a teacher, you don't get to be in her classroom all the time. But, when my dad's at the peak of doing his job, it's typically an arena where everybody's watching him. So I was always very fascinated and impressed with kind of how he coached and the way he saw soccer. So it was very natural for me to want to get into that and be a part of it.
With Kylie, my daughter, we both knew if she was going to play college soccer, she wanted to play for me and I wanted to coach her. So, and she's kind of a homebody. She didn't want to go far away to school. So it was just a really good fit as far as her and me and Longwood. And she had grown up, you know, around the program, all the players. We moved here when she was 1 and started. And so since she was 1 until it was time to go to college, she was always around our players and the team and the locker room. And so it just seemed like a natural fit. Yeah, I want to play college soccer. Awesome, come play for me. And you know, I'd do it all over again. It was a great experience, one that not everybody has. The hardest part for her was in the summers, everybody gets to go home and get away from coach. Well, she would go home and there's coach. She lives with him. It's her dad. So that was probably a challenge for her, but I think if we had the choice, we'd both do it all over again. You can't help but learn a few things over 3 decades, 30 years, but I would say I was probably more spontaneous and instinctual, maybe emotional, hothead when I was younger. And now, you know, you kind of grow with the game and you know more, you've experienced more, but there's still more to learn. My older players from the early years would probably tell you I've gone soft, but it's just a different day and age, and how we coached and who we coached is different now than it was 10 years ago, 20 years ago, 30 years ago. And if you don't change with the times, I think, you know, you kind of work your way out of the business or become irrelevant. So, yeah, I mean, I'm still learning. I would like to think I'm the best coach now than I've ever been, just based on what I've learned.
There was one time where one of his student athletes, their dog passed away, and Dad buried the dog. Like, it's like weird things like that, but he just shows up for people in his special way. And so those relationships that he's been able to build and maintain over the course of his life as a coach and as a teacher and as somebody who shows up for people when they're down or in a tight spot or in a happy capacity, celebrating with them.
We have a relationship where I can go to him and I can talk about personal things, I can talk about the team, I can talk about ideas that I have. And that really changed about, I would say, my junior year, so 2 years ago, when I did become a captain on the team. And I became comfortable talking with him, and we can laugh together, and we have inside jokes, and we can talk about things outside of soccer.
I think his coaching style is very fostering, it's very competitive, and at the end of the day, we're going to treat our players like the ladies they are, but we're also going to train them and get the best out of them because we understand and we know the players that they can become.
Side, keeping everything in front of us, all right? They are not going through us. They can try to go around and over, but they're not. Corinne, try to stay more sensitive. We won our first CVAC championship on the women's side in 2002. And it might have been the day after, certainly the week after, I was told we're going to start the process of moving to Division I. So I was thinking, oh, wow, you know, we just figured out how to be really successful and win championships at the Division II level. And now we're going to immediately start that process to go to Division I. So probably a little bit of apprehension, unknown, but it was also an exciting opportunity. I knew I wanted to stay and be a part of that process. The hardest part of our whole transition is that we were Division I independent for like 10 years. So making the move to Division I, it's hard, it's challenging, but okay, we'll figure it out. Not having a conference to play in and not playing for conference championships, not having the opportunity for our players to earn recognition and all conference honors for 10 years, that was really tough. It makes recruiting harder, it makes scheduling harder, but we continued to build the program. The athletes that chose to be here during that time, I think, deserve a tremendous amount of credit because the easy thing to do would have been to gone somewhere else where they were in a conference and they were playing for championships. But we all felt like we were still building something, building the strength and reputation of our program until we got that opportunity to compete for championships, and we finally did. So you can say it was all worth it, but there's a group of student athletes in all of our sports here at Longwood where there was a decade of just kind of playing games and floating in space, and that was really, really hard. So immediate goal, win our first Big South championship. Following that, win another Big South championship. And just, be one of those teams that, is carrying the flag for Longwood in terms of what we're able to accomplish. I think we do things the right way. I'm proud of what we do, but we want to win it. We want to earn and hold a trophy and then do it again. Long term, 100%. I want to work here until I don't work. And then I'll volunteer for the Friends of the Appomattox and keep the riverways clean around here. But yeah, if I'm working, I want it to be here. I hope they keep me around.
Julia, keep coming.
I guess more than anything, like I can't think of many people that have it better than I have had it in terms of my quality of life and that life that I've been able to have because of the balance of my family, my personal life, and my job. Like, I just feel like I've had the best of both worlds since I graduated from college. And so I owe a lot of credit first and foremost to my wife and my kids, and then also to Longwood. Like, those three people and this institution has given me a life that I would not trade with anybody, and I'm grateful for that.
Home, the story of Todd Dyer. All right, moving on to our next one. In no particular order, the choice of a few, the story of Davis versus County School Board of Prince Edward County, produced by Jacob Halloway. Let's take a watch.
It's important to sort of see both generations, both the strike generation or the walkout generation and the lockout generation as civil rights heroes, because the sacrifices of those individuals during the school closings, they saved public education for all children in America.
Citizenship. What does it mean to be a citizen? How individuals fought for that, resisted that, and then who gets to be an actual American? Like, that is really our story here. So what we do here in this space is talk about Prince Edward County, where we are currently in Virginia, and the 1951 strike led by Barbara Rose Johns that leads into the Davis court case that goes into Brown v. Board, and then the school closings here for 5 years. So to even get to Brown v. Board, that is a court case that's 5 cases rolled into one. They're all asking the same question, though. The constitutionality of segregation. Does it go against the citizens' 14th Amendment right to equal protection under the law to have separate spaces based upon skin color.
So the origins of the Davis case really are in our local community here in Prince Edward. So for years, the Black community had been working to improve schools here in the community. And part of that early struggle led to the building of the Moton School in 1939.
So in this period of Jim Crow America, post that Plessy v. Ferguson, 1896, court case, everything's separate, so it's to be equal. Moton High School was built in 1939. The year before, 2 blocks away, Farmville High was built. Now, at clear expectations of equality, the old buildings should look exactly the same. Farmville High is 4 times the size of Moton. It was built to fail almost. They knew it was like, all right, you got a school, you got something. Unsafe, unequal conditions. This is the Jim Crow era. Everything's supposed to be separate and it's supposed to be equal. It was never equal, definitely was separate.
So there was overcrowding at the building. In addition, in comparison to the white high school in town, the school lacked facilities and amenities. There wasn't a separate cafeteria. The auditorium was kind of a multi-purpose room that was used as a gymnasium as well as an auditorium. And that they also then had hand-me-down materials from the white high school as well. So, students who played on the football team had hand-me-down uniforms and played on a field that didn't have lights on it.
In 1948, the county built what's called tar paper shacks. Those structures were referred to by the students as chicken coops. We're literally in Farmville. They had chickens at home. The same materials for the chicken coops at home were used to make their classrooms. What message does that say about care about Black education?
Those kinds of conditions really led, again, parents to lobby the school board to build a new high school. The school board essentially told the Moton PTA, we're working on this, but you don't need to come back to meetings. And so there was really a stalemate going on. And this prompted students to really take matters into their own hands.
To even get us to Brown, talk about what happened here in this space, in this school on April 23rd, 1951. 16-year-old Barbara Rose John saw a community problem. She wanted a community fix.
And so she secretly brought a committee of 20 students together and they decided to plan a walkout.
Her strategy was to get some of the popular students and Moton, people that will kind of push their classmates. They would have meetings, very secret meetings, like on the football field. And it was a need-to-know conversation. If you needed to know, you knew. Otherwise, crickets, not a thing. They referred to themselves as the Manhattan Project. But let's talk about that for a second. World War II, Manhattan Project, the atomic bomb. The Black children here at the strike committee chose that as their code name. That's a whole, to fully unpack that, we'd be here for hours. But they knew it's going to change everything, potentially. However, with this walkout, doesn't it?
And so on the morning of April 23rd, 1951, students at Moton were called to the auditorium. The teachers were called as well by notes signed, there will be an assembly at 11 a.m., signed BJ, which happened to be the initials of the principal, Mr. Boyd Jones, but also happened to be Barbara's initials. So they arrived in the auditorium and the curtains opened, revealing the members of the student committee. The students had lured the principal off grounds to downtown. And so they did this out of a means of wanting to protect the principal. And they asked all the teachers to leave the auditorium.
The quality of education here at Moton was amazing. That's why when the strike happened, the students asked the teachers to leave so they wouldn't be held accountable for the student-led, student-planned, student act of civil disobedience, breaking the truancy laws. They wanted to protect their teachers. They had a great connection with their teachers. They only wanted what they legally were already supposed to have.
And so it's during that meeting that Barbara Johns encouraged her fellow students to walk out in protest of the conditions that they faced. In the wake of that walkout, students met with the superintendent, T.J. McElwain, and said, you've got to improve conditions at our school.
Barbara Johns, of course, was that group. And if I remember correctly, his secretary said, oh, the students are here. He's like, who's here? To do what? So you have a white superintendent's office and a bunch of Moton high school students, black students, going into this office and saying, we're not going to go to school until you build us a new school building in 1951.
And the superintendent said, you need to go back to school. This isn't something that students need to be involved in. And they also reached out to Reverend Francis Griffin, who was a pastor at First Baptist Church in downtown Farmville and had been engaged in the Moton PTA. And Griffin said, you all should reach out to the National Association for the Advancement of Colored People, the NAACP. And so Barbara and her fellow strike planner, Carrie Stokes, wrote a letter to Oliver Hill. Well, actually, they first called him and said, we want you to come down to Prince Edward and talk to us and help us take our case. We want a new high school.
He's like, no, we're not interested in building a new school. Y'all go back to class. She's like, well, you have to go to Pulaski County anyway. You might as well stop in Farmville. Pulaski County is further west of here. They were having a court case. That case ends up falling apart.
The NAACP attorneys decided to come and visit the students and meet with them. And they had the intention of telling them to go back to school.
If I remember correctly, they kept the car running. Because like, we're just going to stop and go. I'm like, no, we're going to talk about this.
And so they met with the students down by at First Baptist Church. And the attorney said, well, there's truancy laws. Like, you can't stay out of school. Like you're violating those. And the students responded and they said, there's too many of us. They're not going to put us in jail. Like, the jail's not big enough to hold us. And they said, well, you'll have to sort of be willing to challenge segregation. This is bigger than just a new school.
The students initially only wanted a new school. When they partnered with the NAACP, they decided to sue for integration or to desegregate the space.
And the students said, okay, well, we'll do it.
That night they decided, I believe, to sue.
That case becomes Davis et al. Versus County School Board of Prince Edward County. So the first stage in the Davis case was the federal district court. And for these cases, they convened a 3-judge panel of federal judges to decide these cases. Essentially, what the district court ruled was that by all means, Prince Edward County had discriminated against Black children, that the schools here were inadequate, and the county needed to do something to make the schools better. The district court refused to rule on this broader issue of the constitutionality of segregated facilities. Because of the 3-judge panel, it sort of jumped the kind of Circuit Court of Appeals and went directly to the Supreme Court.
So when the Davis case stalls out here, he hears from Thurgood Marshall. And Marshall's like, do you want to join your court case together with mine? That's the verbiage, to join a case.
The Davis case was kind of not the first case that becomes part of the Brown decision. There's a case out of South Carolina in Clarendon County that Thurgood Marshall was busy litigating kind of early in 1951. So these cases begin to develop, and then the court agrees to hear them. The Supreme Court agrees to hear them and decides that it's best to kind of bundle these 5 cases together. So there's one out of Washington, D.C., one out of Delaware, and then the case we all know, which is the case that comes out of Kansas, which is Brown v. Board of Education. What's interesting about the Davis case at the federal level, that it's after that sort of the Prince Edward County officials actually get busy and work to build a new school, a new high school. So when the Brown decision gets handed down on May 17th, 1954, Black students in the county are going to a brand new high school. So they got their new school. And they also then they won on the bigger principle because in the Brown decision, the Supreme Court declares that segregation in public education is unconstitutional, that it violates the 14th Amendment, and the equal citizenship clause. But that's all the court says in May of 1954. And what usually happens in Supreme Court cases, and court cases in general, is a court gives a ruling and then they give a remedy. They say, well, here's what you get. And so they asked for Southern states and the NAACP, kind of for the Brown kind of litigants, to come back and then present additional arguments about how school desegregation might actually work. And so that led to a subsequent court ruling in May of 1955 that we refer to as the Brown II ruling.
And with Brown 2, the Supreme Court says with all deliberate speed, but the lower courts, because they're local, they're closer to the different localities, they'll figure out how to do it.
But obviously they were also vague in that second ruling too. So with all deliberate speed, as Oliver Hill later said, that meant a lot of deliberation and no speed.
So it sets up a legal expectation on a federal level, but not instructions how on a state or local level to actually follow through with it.
President Eisenhower doesn't strongly come out and say that the federal government's going to enforce the Brown decisions. And so because of that, it provides an opportunity for Southern states to figure out how to evade and deny and undermine the Brown decision. In the fall of 1958, this all comes to a head because there's court cases that the NAACP had launched in Charlottesville and in Norfolk and in Warren County up in the Shenandoah Valley. By then, federal court judges are ordering that school systems need to desegregate. So the Circuit Court of Appeals finally has to order, and this is by May of 1959, the Circuit Court of Appeals orders that the Prince Edward County has to desegregate its schools in the fall of 1959. So remember, this is after the fall of statewide massive resistance. So what happens in Prince Edward is really kind of another attempt to figure out a way to resist the Brown decision.
Well, I was like 10 and a half, I should say. And when you first was out for the summer, you really was thinking that it was going back in the fall. You didn't hear right away that it was not going to be in the school. I was locked out from 59 until 63 when they started the preschool. It took a while for it to really sink in until you see the other buses from the other counties running and you can't go, you know. That's how it affects you. Like, wonder why our county be the one that not go. The neighbor, he, I guess, wanted us to have something to do, you know, as far as work and make a little money. And so me and my two cousins got put off by my daddy down at the other man's land. And when we got put off, it was early enough, the school bus hadn't come. So we seen some of the ones we knew from Halloway waiting for the bus, and we was talking to them that morning. And we was going to work in the cornfield, and they was going to school, and that really have a effect on a child when the bus pull off with them on it, and you got to watch the bus go, and you can't go, you know. Griffin would organize all the different things in the bottom of the basement of First Baptist Church, and I would ride with my mom and them up there, because then you could see firsthand what's going on with the school being opened back up. And so he was doing the strategy meetings, and he was talking about, he was trying to get the centers open, and like how many would be willing to go to the centers and that type of thing. After we was going to the center, some of the others had got that lived closer to town or had rides to town. They was talking about protesting in town. My mama said that we could help any way size going to it and being out there on the street protesting. So when it came to the ones at the center, knew by that time that I could print pretty good. And so we spent the day before the protest making signs. And I think, it's hard to think back then, but I think I made 5 signs during the day when we was at the center. And that particular sign, my cousin that's singing told me she protested because she lived up near Pipeline, but I couldn't protest, but still, that's my sign, and she's in that picture, and the third one in the picture. The school's closed, and I had passed to the 5th grade, but I never did get to go to the 5th grade. And by me and my sister was at home, my mama always believed in education. So she would give me and my sister a break during the daytime and say, y'all got to study something. It don't matter what you reading about or learning, as long as you was doing it every day. And so my reading got better by my sister helping me, because my sister liked school, which I was just a typical boy. I wanted to hang with the boys, you know. And if it weren't for her, I wouldn't have been never able to read as good as I learned to read or keep up after the schools opened back up from reading certain things like the newspaper. And then if you go anywhere, church or to any kind of program that somebody's reading, you say to yourself, I wish I would have been able to read like that, you know.
In this county, there are some people, business owners, who can't read and write. Not because they didn't want to learn, they were literally locked out of their education. It gives education a tinge of trauma. And like when those kids grow up, could they help their own children with their homework? Maybe, maybe not. I'll share with you, we had a family reunion. I was trying to get everyone in place to do the tour. And I walk up on this gentleman. He is sobbing in the gallery. I'm like, oh God, what do I do? Like, what do you do? And I'm like, how can I help? Like, is there anything I can do? He's like, it just hurts, because it does. But he cries every single time he's in this building. He was locked out of school. Another one of our storytellers, she shared that for years she thought it was her fault. And I'm like, no, you're a baby. Like, what? But she thought it was her fault. And it's the choices of a few have ripple effects on the many.
So for me, like I went to Longwood in undergrad. I was an elementary education major. So like I was one of 25 people in the classroom, usually the only Black person, usually the only male. We started talking about Brown versus Board of Education in my freshman Education 260, first class. And so we're sitting in class and we start talking about Brown v. Board, and naturally people just start to look at me because I'm the only Black person. We're talking about something that involves Black people, used to that. But they start talking about the cases. And they're like, and Delaware had a case. And I was like, Delaware, what are they doing? And DC had a case, and South Carolina had a case, and then Prince Edward had a case. I'm like, Prince Edward Island? Like Prince Edward, like British Columbia, Prince Edward, like what are you talking about? Like Prince Edward County, Farmville, Virginia, right here. I was like, And so I was embarrassed because I just did not have any awareness of it. I was aware of the school closures. My dad made sure I was aware of that. But like the strike, my great aunts, my great grandfather had absolutely no idea about that until I started working here. And so I was volunteering here as an intern. Well, I was a volunteer first and then an intern. I was looking in the back wall in the auditorium where the plaque is, and I see Mildred, Arlene, and John Townsend. I was like, those are my relatives. And they were plaintiffs in Davis, and subsequently plaintiffs in Brown. I had no idea until I started working here, and I was furious. But then fast forward to 2017, this is my second term on school board, was non-consecutive. So 2017 was the first time we had elected school board members in Prince Edward County. A lot of that goes straight back to in a Brown and pre-Brown era. How do you control people, right? Appointed school board members from the Board of Supervisors meant, oh, if you vote with me on this part of the budget, I'll make sure your guy is my school board guy, right? Not always, by no stretch, not always, but it happened. And so when I first joined, I mean, the irony was not lost upon me that I was one of the first ever elected school board members to be sitting on the governing body that locked my own father out of an education. That irony was absolutely not lost upon me at all.
We continue to struggle with those legacies, but I think what's also important, and it's when we look at the historical sources about this time period, and kind of in the 1960s, kind of leaders and politicians kind of referred to this generation of students as the lost generation or the crippled generation. And I think it's important that we never forget about kind of what they lost and what the sacrifice was that they made, but they certainly have not been victims throughout their lives, and that they're also a resilient generation. They are a survivor generation, and some of the stories of what their parents did and sacrificed to be able to provide them with some sort of education and schooling, I mean, it's really profound and remarkable.
But I think it's all about money. Like it's enough talk, enough statements, enough apologies. Invest in our communities. Give us better places to live. Give more resources educationally. Give more scholarship money to these kids who can't afford to go to school otherwise. We'll be talking about this at the 75th anniversary of Brown. We'll talk about this at the 8th anniversary of Brown. But unless the Commonwealth of Virginia and the United States of America, who also have never actually formally apologized for slavery, by the way, right? If our governing bodies can actually put their money where their mouth is, I think that will be the only way, because we can't turn back time. We can't turn back time. All we can do is, and I think that's what most of this generation would want, if I'm being honest, is to make life better for their descendants. I think that's what my dad would want. I think that's what my grandfather would want. I can't benefit from it, but my son can. My son can't benefit from it, but my granddaughters can. Like, I think that's what they would want. How do we make this a better place for them and improve their education? I think that's what that has to be.
Let's give it up for Jacob here. I think you got to see it through these three, but also it's true of the rest of the documentaries too, the power of storytelling, right? You get these stories out there, oftentimes they're not told, and the fact they have a legacy, right? They're bigger than this class and they live on, and so that's one of the things that makes me extremely proud to get to teach storytelling here, is the fact these have a bigger meaning. So, let's get to our third place winner. The third place documentary is The Man of Many Names, produced by Ryan Forrest. Let's give Ryan a round of applause. Our second place winner is Home, the Story of Todd, Dyer, produced by Claudia Wellman. Let's give Claudia a big round of applause. And that does mean our first place winner is The Choice of a Few, the story of Davis versus County School Board of Prince Edward, produced by Jacob Halloway. David, come on up here. Tell us a little bit, a lot of work went in this, so we want to give us a little bit of a preview behind the scenes?
Yeah, well, I originally wanted to do this story because I'm from Chesterfield, which is only an hour away from Farmville, and obviously growing up in public education, I knew about Brown versus Board a little bit, not many details. And then when I came here, I actually was offered a job by Mr. Ryan, or Dr. Ryan Stover himself, and with the Moton Museum. And so I was like, well, I need some experience, I'll take it. I wasn't exactly aware of any of the history that took place, so I was like, I might want to know where I'm working at, and so I kind of started reading up on the story and this case, and was kind of just shocked by that. I'd never had heard of it, never heard of the schools closing, only living an hour away. And so I think storytelling can also be powerful, but also educational, which is kind of a purpose of making this, to kind of help share this story, because I don't think enough people on this campus are aware of it, in this state, but in this country as well. So that was kind of the background of doing it, and it was quite a documentary. Gathering that footage was really tough. Big shout out to Jamie Crow from the library that helped me with that, but it was a challenge, but worth it to tell the story.
And it was what, the 50th anniversary of Brown v. Board is right?
50th anniversary, yeah.
It's 2024, right?
It's 2024,
so
yeah.
Time to time, Kaden talked about it too. So.
Yep.
Well done, Jake.
All right, so again, you should all be extremely proud of yourselves, whether you just completed a documentary or other forms of media. Again, it's a celebration year that wraps up the end of the year. So I'm gonna ask all my storytelling students and all my winners to come up. Everybody else, that wraps up our evening, so enjoy the rest of, take some of our $12 cheese, please. It's very expensive. Take some food to go here. For those of you on summer, we'll see you next year. Make some good media. For everybody else graduating, congratulations. We'll see you either at the senior comm party or at graduation. That wraps up the evening. Thank you all for coming. Good night. Winners and comm storytelling to the front, please.